Hello everybody and welcome to the first major patch for Risk of Rain 2 after the 1.0 update. Now it's important for me to state this, that consoles you still not have had the 1.0 update, therefore this patch doesn't apply to you. Just thought I'd put that out there. This is a pretty small patch overall, but there are some very important changes in here that I want to go over. So first off, on the captain, your beacons now properly press down the buttons on Abandoned Aqueduct. So if you really want to get those double bans, which are pretty solid on the captain in general, then you can now do this a little more consistently by just using your beacons and hitting a button and then go finding the other one. Also, equipment drones received a pretty nice buff. They now use their equipment approximately 5 times as often. I tested this on stream with a few equipments. I used the black hole. It was up like all the time. The Gorax Opus had like literally 3 seconds of downtime. So that's 50% movement speed, 100% attack speed from the drone with only like 3 seconds of downtime. The backup equipment has like a 5-second downtime on it. It's really, really nice. And this is the meat of the update here. The final boss changes specifically for the last phase. And again, there are spoilers here. If you still haven't fought the final boss, you still want to figure out what it does, there are spoilers for it. So here we go. Basically, all they're saying here is that the last phase, a lot of people are frustrated with it, and their goal is just make it more consistent and honestly just a little more fun too. So here's the biggest part. They have removed entirely the unique scaling to his health and damage. So this is the same thing as the Alloy Worship Unit and Aurelianite and the Gold Portal. These are secret bosses that receive unique scaling, and now only in the last phase of the fight, not for the whole fight in general, but just the last phase of the Mithrix fight, he no longer has that additional health and damage. And you see here, this has a significant reduction on his health and damage, and you can expect him to have less than half of his current health and damage on the live build, of course, depending on time. I have fought Mithrix quite a few times on this patch already, and I can definitely notice a difference, a huge difference. Not to say that the final phase is a joke now because of this change here. He is now immune to damage while channeling. So the final phase of the fight is when you start sucking in all your items, and the best strategy by far was to have a Praeon Accumulator, a Royal Capacitor, or some other instance of a butt ton of damage and shoot it at him as soon as he starts the channel. You can no longer cheese the fight as he is completely immune to damage during that phase. And to compensate for that, they have drastically reduced the spread of his Lunar Shard attack, making it more consistent if you want to dodge it. However, this means it is much more accurate, so if you are in the line of fire, you are probably going to get hit by this. But for the most part, this is a pretty good change. And the Lunar Shard attack is when he has his ranged attack, his pistol. Pew, 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 pew. It's like a needler or whatever. And then the Energy Ball attack, obviously this is when he slams the ground and all those balls come out in a circle. They cascade out and then they come back. Their damage was reduced. Their knockback was increased drastically. And their collision radius was reduced quite a bit. So overall, they deal less damage, are easier to dodge, but they also knock you back farther and knock you up in the air higher. But it's safe to assume that if you're doing Eclipse runs, especially Eclipse 3 and above, where fall damage is lethal, this modifier right here is probably pretty dangerous. But maybe it doesn't launch you all the way up in there. I don't know because I haven't got hit by a new ball. And then, of course, he is now immune to damage during the channeling, but he can also no longer take your Mired Urn and Crowbars. Well, he takes them, but he can't use them. Same thing with Razor Wire and Tougher Times. Also, he steals items from your minions, meaning the Engineer turrets. You can no longer plop them down, have them keep all of your items, and then cheese the boss like that. You can't do that anymore. But it is cool that now minions can retrieve the items for you. So if you're playing Engineer and your turrets are on the ground, they won't have their items, but they will still be hitting them quite frequently. So you should get your items back at a faster rate. And then moving on to the bug fixes here, there are quite a few big ones. First off, the Mercenary, his Blinding Assault, which is his shift, no longer goes a shorter distance with the more attack speed you have, and the missing iframes are now back on the initial cast. Also, the hit pause duration, which is when you zoom through enemies and you kind of like stagger through, has been adjusted back to the 0.1 second duration from 0.15. So this was the pre 1.0 hit pause duration, so it should feel normal again. The Gorax Opus, which again is 50% movement speed, 100% attack speed, has been fixed on Captain, the Engineer, and Equipment drones. The Captain's Airstrike was only dealing 1500% damage for the first shot. The other two were dealing 500. Now it's been adjusted to just deal 1000 across the board. So overall, this is a buff because it's going from 2500% total damage to now 3000%. However, that initial shot being dropped from 1500 to 1000 means that your ice and your fire band, which are dealing a butt ton of damage with your orbital strike, are essentially getting nerfed by 33% because it's going again from 1500 to 1000%. But overall, if you land all 3 shots, you are dealing more damage. Here's another big one. The luck stat no longer affects the drop rate of keys in the Bulwark's Ambry. This means both the 57-leaf clover does not increase your keys, but the purity doesn't decrease your keys. If anyone picked up the purity and you went to the Bulwark's Ambry, you know exactly what it's talking about here. One single purity drastically reduced the chance of getting a key, so I'm glad that they adjusted that. You can no longer scrap your consumed Dios. There aren't really any other huge changes in here. You can go ahead. I'll link the patch notes in the description below, so you can go ahead and read the full patch. But the big stuff, again, are the Mercenary fixes, the Gorax Opus fix, the Captain adjustment, And then, of course, the Mithrix final phase. That's all the stuff I wanted to cover for this patch. You can check out my stream at twitch.tv/Woolie Gaming and consider joining our Discord server as well if you want notifications when I go live on Twitch or upload a video here on YouTube, or to just hang out with anybody that likes Risk of Rain 2. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.